That's right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Principles of Fitness podcast. My name is Cameron Harn, and on today's episode, we have NorCal Fitness Summit founder Khaled ELmasri as our guest today. For years, Khaled has been helping fitness professionals identify areas of their business that they may be struggling with and map out a blueprint that is going to take them to that next level. He has been able to do this as a manager for several health clubs and as the founder of the NorCal Fitness Summit. During our conversation, we talk about pitfalls that trainers face and how the NorCal Fitness Summit blueprints a strategy for business owners to apply immediately after the summit. So on Monday, they're locked and ready to go. How understanding human psychology has helped him to better empathize with his clients. Strategies that he's learned from being in Todd Durkin's mastermind group. How he keeps the information at the NorCal Fitness Summit relevant to business owners year after year. And lessons from his past that have helped shape him to where he is today. So without further ado, please enjoy this episode with Khaled ELmasri. I'm just so thankful for the amount of information that's out there, especially on these podcasts with some of these like big influencers and people like yourself, man, who are trying to positively influence the lives of so many personal trainers out there that are kind of like lost in this world of like, what to do with their business, how to move forward with it, and they want to make a better life for themselves ultimately. And this is a great industry to be in. And I think that they can have a fruitful life in the fitness industry.
Oh, absolutely. I think the industry itself, where it was 10 years ago and where it is now, has completely revolutionized how we interact with members, how we engage with members, how we deliver results and information to members. And I think at some point there's so much out there now that gym owners, personal trainers are just confused. Like there's so like misinformation, mixed matching information. Like who do I follow? Who do I listen to? Mm-hmm. So I think, I think this industry is amazing. I think this industry has so much potential, and every year you see a flood of new trainers come into this industry. So it's at a point now where being an average trainer or an average gym owner in this industry is no longer going to work. You just showing up and taking people through workouts is no longer going to work. I think it's coming down to understanding not even so much like a hyper niche, but or not so much just understanding, okay, I'm a weight loss guy, but how do you take that even lower to where now you're micro niching? It's no longer even about a niche anymore. Now it's just like, we're working with trainers on how do I micro niche? Like, how do I take I work with women who are overweight and micro niche that down to specific women who are overweight, who are married, who have 2 kids, who drive this, who live in a house, who are, so on and so forth.
That's interesting.
I think that's just where I think at this point with so many people, trainers coming into the industry, I think it's coming to the point where you're going to have to micro niche down.
Yeah, I think I started off with a certain niche in my business, dealing with men who had lower back issues. But I feel like there's also kind of a great awakening with the fitness industry and personal training in particular, that they're going, oh wait, I've got to treat this like a business. It's not just something fun where I can collect some cash and meet some cool people and work a few people out here and there. But it's like, well, hold on, I can actually turn this into a business and live off of it. And so now it's kind of like people trying to understand, okay, how does the business aspect of all this work? And I think that's, I don't know from your experience, but from my experience, that's kind of what I struggled with and what I've seen other people kind of struggle with in the industry.
I know it's a great point. It's something I even struggled with as when I first came up in the industry is, certifications do an amazing job teaching you program design and assessing and all that stuff. But what they lack is business and how do I market and how do I lead generate? More importantly, how do I sell? I think a lot of the certifications miss that. So when a trainer gets into the industry, they have this kind of they have this uninformed optimism of I'm excited, I'm ready to change lives, this is what I want to do, this is my passion, but they don't really understand what comes with that. They think I have a certification. I just got hired at a gym, and now I want to change the world. And what they start understanding is at some point they start realizing, oh crap, like I need to get clients. Like I can't just show up and expect to be given clients. I need to go out and find my own. And but I don't know how to do that. So then you kind of get into this like informed pessimism. Like I didn't know this, and now I know this, and now I don't like it because I don't know business and I don't like selling.
Yeah.
So now it's like, what the hell do I do?
It's like, wait a minute, this is hard.
Exactly. And no, I don't feel comfortable selling, and I mean, we can get on a tangent about sales and all that stuff, but I'm actually speaking on that at the NSCA event in Anaheim later this month on sales. But you get into this, they get into this mindset of like, okay, what's my purpose now? Like I wanted to change lives, and so I got certified, but now I have to run a business. I'm not sure I'm cut out for personal training, or I'm not sure I'm cut out to be a trainer. And now within their first year, they're done. They leave the industry altogether because they're not getting the coaching, the guidance, the mentoring to understand how to niche down. How do I lead generate? How do I market? And all that stuff's changing so fast that it's tough for someone to keep up with it. As a trainer, to keep up with what's happening with Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff is hard on its own, when you also got to keep up with clients and the experience that they're getting at your club. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, there's abundance of information, and not only that, but competition out there that it overwhelms people in, what direction do I need to go? How do I need to generate business, clients and stuff? I want to get into all of that in just a minute, Khaled, because I want to, for my listeners, I want them to get to know you a little bit more. I want to get to know you a little bit more, man, because we've only got to know each other in passing a couple times and stuff, and sharing a few stories here and there. But could you just tell me where did you grow up, and kind of how did you get into the fitness industry?
Yeah, so I was born in the Middle East. So I was born in Lebanon, and
wow.
So I moved to California when I was 5. So Lebanon was in a civil war at that time, and so my parents took us out of that to keep us safe and not get killed or injured. So we moved to California, and I grew up in a town called San Luis Obispo, which is
I'm familiar with SLO, right? Man. I got buddies who went to school up there.
Exactly. So I grew up there, went to high school there, college there, and that's where I first got my taste of fitness, but more importantly, personal training. So in high school, junior to senior year, I had a trainer get me ready for my last year of football season, and I had some amazing results. I mean, at that point, I was 210 running a 4.55 40.
Oh wow!
Yeah, as a tailback, all because man. right, the good old high school days. All because of a trainer, and that for me was kind of my that's what triggered my passion to get involved in fitness. So I started working at a gym, did the front desk. And worked my way up to personal training and started training some clients, and then decided to get into physical therapy. So I got a job at a physical therapy office as a trainer / PTA because I wanted to get into PT school and go the physical therapy route. My dad got hurt on a job, it's about 20 years ago now, where he fell and hurt his shoulder and his lower back. And so I became really intrigued on how do I help rehab people with shoulder and lower back pain, and specifically I focused on the shoulder, and so that became my obsession, is how do I help people recover from shoulder injury, shoulder pain. So I wanted to get into PT, and through that time did that, moved to San Francisco, got involved in a health club, and that was my first introduction of the health club industry in the corporate world, and was a trainer for about a year, and then moved up really fast into management. Sales comes naturally to me. I like selling. I like having someone in front of me and getting to know people. And I think that stems back from being an immigrant in this country when I didn't know anybody. I didn't know how to speak English. There was times where I felt alone and kind of felt like I'm on an island by myself growing up, which is funny because when you talk to a lot of business owners, how I felt when I was 5 is pretty much the same as how they feel now when it comes to their business. They feel like they're on their own. Nobody understands them. So for me, I took that, and that became kind of my obsession of wanting to understand people and wanting to get to know people. And so sales became naturally to me. So I moved up to management. And for the last 12 years, as I've been in this industry, I've been in a fitness director, a regional fitness director, overseeing 4 clubs, general manager. And so I've ran the kind of the gauntlet when it comes to the corporate world of different positions in big health clubs, working with trainers. At this point, over 100, I've probably coached over a few hundred trainers in my 12-year career.
Wow.
Yeah, it's funny when you talk about it out loud, you realize like I've been able to help a lot of trainers with their business. And as I understood it and I saw a lot of trainers leave, it became really alarming. Like, why are they come in so excited and yet they leave so jaded? Like, this isn't the right industry for me, because they don't have the business sense of like, okay, what do I need to do to treat this like a business and not just show up, I'm certified, we're our clients. And that kind of inspired me to launch the NorCal Fitness Summit, which is like my 3-day fitness business event in San Francisco. And that's ideally geared. I saw it and I kept seeing it over and over again. And I kept hearing trainers, their pain points. Like, I don't know business. I don't understand marketing. I don't understand sales. And so I created an event to help motivate them and inspire them and give them actually the blueprint of, hey, here's how you create an online business. Here's how you run your Facebook ads. Here's how you do this. So when they leave, they have their fitness business blueprint in their hands to now go implement on Monday and start running a business.
Awesome.
It's been fun.
That's incredible, man. I want to backpedal a little bit because I listened to the Stop Chasing Pain podcast, and you had mentioned in there that you were an entrepreneur at the age of 5. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's funny because I always get asked, like, what do you mean you were an entrepreneur at the age of 5? So if you go back to my comment on how I felt when I was 5, the being alone and not fitting in and like wanting to reach out and be a part of something bigger than myself. Mm-hmm. That is the statement of I knew I was an entrepreneur at 5 years old, because those are the same feelings I have now as an entrepreneur, or I had as an entrepreneur, or many entrepreneurs have now, are what I felt at 5. So at 5, I knew what entrepreneurs felt like, because that's what I felt like being a little kid trying to fit in. I didn't run a business at 5 years old.
Okay. Gotcha. I'm like, you got some like early stage Mark Cuban stuff over here, man, where you're like on the corner selling ice cream to kids. I'm trying to teach my son that right now. I'm like, supplying
lemonade stands.
Dude, no, even better than lemonade stands. I'm like, lemonade's old school. You need to go sell ice cream at the park right now.
That's a good idea.
Oh,
that's a really good idea.
Way better.
That whole statement, that whole statement was really going back to like at 5 years old, all those feelings that most trainers and gym owners, or anyone, frankly, that like sometimes feels like they're on an island alone. Those are the feelings I felt when I was 5. And so, and that's what, when you look back at it now, NorCal, or what I created with the summit, solves a lot of those feelings of you're not alone. You're not on an island by yourself. There's others who either are going through what you're going through or have gone what you're going through. And now I'm honored to be able to bring them all together in a room, and now they can connect and share and network together.
So how did you channel those feelings, Khaled? How did you get all those uncomfortable feelings that entrepreneurs would face at 5, and just kind of with what you were going through as being an immigrant in the United States, into where you are today? How did your upbringing kind of influence that? Where did you channel it?
So it was through sports. Like, I put myself in, growing up, I was around kind of like the wrong crowd growing up. And because obviously you want something and you're searching for it, you'll find it anywhere. And sometimes you find it in the wrong areas. And so I found it in the wrong areas, and I was getting in trouble a lot in high school and getting into fights and stealing stuff and all that, all that jazz.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, man. Like in junior high, like sixth grade to junior high was a lot of that kind of like I was lost. Like, and so in trying to find who I was, I started hanging around the wrong crowd, because I felt like I was accepted. Like, they accepted me. And I felt like I was a part of something. Little did I know that part of something was eventually going to get me in trouble at some point, actually get me put in jail if I didn't clean up my act.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. There was a moment in time there where I could have been in jail. So I found football. And so I kind of stumbled upon football in 7th grade. And that for me, that's when I started forming my identity. So I was a part of something, and that part of something allowed me to take out a lot of my anger and frustration on someone else. But in that, I found like me and my identity, and I was and a team, and I was accepted for the talents that I had, and all that carried me through high school and through college. And so it wasn't just like this one thing. It was just more like I found a sport that I anchored to, and fitness anchored me to that. And so fitness has always been, even now, man, anytime I have a hard day or I'm having a rough day, fitness has always been that anchor where I can just go to a gym and work out and feel centered again.
Absolutely. Now, Khaled, did you have any influences, like people who kind of influenced your life growing up? Any mentors, people that kept you on that path, coaches? Yeah,
one of my mentors, his name's Butch Cooper. I met him later in life. And when I first, I met him when I became a fitness director up in San Francisco, and he's actually one of my best friends now. And so I clinged on to him, and he became my mentor that helped me understand how to lead, how to manage, how to develop, how to be a true servant leader and not just a manager. And so a lot of where I am today, I really owe to him and his leadership and his guidance over the last 10 years.
And you guys are still friends? You guys still stay in contact with each other?
Yeah, we talk once a week. He's a high rank. He's an executive with 24 Hour Fitness. And so we talk every week. Our wedding days were 1 year apart, same weekend, 1 year apart,
wow.
Which was a coincidence. Yeah, we didn't plan that. Like, that was a total coincidence. So, yeah, man, if it wasn't for him, like, taking me under his wing, and I've had a lot of mentors, through the Todd Durkin. I mean, Todd Durkin was a great mentor. I was with him for 5 years, and I learned a lot.
Really?
I was in his mastermind for about 5 years, and so I learned a lot of the business side of it through being a part of his mastermind. And then not just with Todd, but being surrounded with a lot of there was 70 people in our mastermind, and all of them were entrepreneurs, ran a studio, ran a health club, ran an independent training gym. So I learned a lot of business sense from that group and being in Todd's group.
So I've heard somebody else mention a mastermind, and I'm not too familiar with them. I've got a mentor, but this is I feel like another level. Can you talk a little bit about Todd Durkin's mastermind that you were in?
Yeah, ideally, basically, if you think about it, it's a group. It's getting a group of individuals together, and we mastermind. Meaning, like, okay, here's my problem, here's my situation, and now as a group, we come up with ideas on how to solve that problem. And so, in that mastermind, someone in that group has gone through what you're going through, and that's the awesome thing about being in a mastermind or having a mentor is they've pretty much gone through already what you're currently experiencing, or they actually know what's about to happen, and hey, watch out for this. Here's what's going to happen, or here's what might happen if you don't catch it. And that was the awesome thing about being in that group is, I was able to get that coaching of like, hey, this might happen, so just be careful, because I was surrounded by other people who've gone through it.
Do you have any scenarios or memories of a situation where somebody's like, hey, watch out for this, and then it helped you avert maybe a loss or something that could have set you back a little bit?
Yeah. The big one for me is when I went from managing one club to managing 4 clubs. And so that was a whole monster of a move in itself. And luckily there was a guy in the group who used to be a regional manager of some clubs. And so I got on the phone with him, and, he gave me some pointers and some coaching on how to handle 4 clubs. So that way you're not, because each one's different, each one's unique, and each one has its own personality. So how do you treat them as such and not all the same? And so he kind of gave me some pointers on, when I meet with the trainers and when I meet with the general manager, and how do I make that transition smooth for everybody so that no one is abrupt by the change happening. So yeah, man, that was really one of the best examples that comes to mind.
I can't even imagine being in a leadership position like that. What's it like? What are some of the obstacles that you face, leading 4 clubs?
It's always been a challenge that I wanted. And so it finally came true. I've always, I don't know what it was, but I wanted to really test my skill set of, can I run 4 clubs and manage a group of, I thought it was about 47 trainers.
Wow, man. I love that. That's crazy.
It was fun. And a lot of it was just understanding. I think the biggest challenge was knowing, okay, you can't, like, what happens at one club, even though how close they are, each club has its own personality and each club has its own member base. So what I did at one didn't necessarily work at a different one because that demographic was completely different because of whatever side of town it was at. Mm-hmm. It was on in San Francisco. So that was the biggest challenge, was being able to peel back and sit back and be like, okay, these are the 4 clubs. These are the demographics. This is our member base. And now we can put a plan of attack together to go, attract that right kind of member, and so they can get involved in personal training.
Awesome, man. Being that you're in a leadership position, and this seems to be the place that you're most comfortable. How has your upbringing helped you out with that? How has your relationship with your parents, shown you that leadership position and how to be an effective leader for others?
I get it from my dad. My dad was a leader at his company, and so in my upbringing, it was always about talking, like, the work hard, the drive, that kind of mentality. And so that was instilled for me from, when I was 7, 8. Like, it was always work hard for what you want, work hard to get to that next level. Nothing's ever given to you. And so for us, we always talked about taking risks and not seeing risk as failures. That was always part of my upbringing. And so that as I grew up, became kind of my leadership style. Was I was okay taking risk and knowing that it might not work. I was okay with that, because if it did work, then hey, awesome, we took a risk and the risk worked, and now we can move forward. And if it didn't work, hey, that's okay. We would have never known if we never took that risk. So that was kind of what my dad instilled that in me when I was young.
That's huge.
It is. When most parents tell the kids not to do this or don't do this, my dad was like, do it, see what happens, and learn from it. And that's really the worst case scenario, is you might fail, but if you do, that's okay. And so that gave me the okay to try things and do different things, knowing that it's okay to fail, and as long as I learn from it.
Yeah, it's hard to go from especially to go from a personal training position to a management position, and then from management to running 4 clubs. You can see that you have, no fear of risk, where I myself, if I were to be put in that position, I'd be like, oh, but what if I sucked as a manager? What if I was terrible at this? What's going to happen? You don't want, there's that fear of letting people down. I think that holds a lot of us back.
It does. And for me, and I thrive in that world, because it's the fear of letting someone down that is what helps me perform at my best, because I don't want to let anyone down. Wow. So I kind of reverse psychology that in my head of it's scary as hell running 4 clubs, but what's fun is it's you grow into it. If you would have asked me that a few years ago, there was no way I was ready to take on 4 clubs. I just wasn't. I didn't have the maturity. I didn't have the growth, that growth curve of being able to go from 1 club to 4 clubs. And so, it's a process, and the process always takes time. But the process, you got almost you can't go from A to Z without going from B to Y. Mm-hmm. Right. And so there's no way I could have skipped going from 1 club to 4 clubs if I didn't go from 1 club that was, I think my first club was 10,000 square feet to my last 1 club was 80,000 square feet. And so it's a growth, right? And so I grew into the 4 clubs, but I had to go through the process of a bigger club, a bigger club, a bigger club, a bigger staff. And then I was ready. Oh, cool. Now I'm ready for 4 clubs and 40-something trainers. And, I think I was responsible for about $3 million in revenue.
Wow.
Yeah. So
unbelievable.
I think it's a process, man. You can't jump hurdles. You you just have to trust the process, and you grow into the process.
What are some things in your earlier stages as a personal trainer that have helped you in the position that you're in today?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, it was really understanding human psychology and really understanding behaviors and motivational interviewing and understanding, like, I knew for me, in order to be successful as a trainer, I had to understand people, and I had to understand how people think and understand what holds people back. And so I dove into psychology books, and I drove into more sales books. And as I peeled back layers of, what really, the stories we tell ourselves and the stories that sit in our subconscious that will come up when things are triggered. Like, as I understood that helped me become more empathetic with people when they're sitting across from me. Because, I could relate to some extent, maybe not directly with the same situation, but there's a point in my life where I faced something similar and had the same feelings, but I was able to relate to that because I understood who the person is sitting across from me.
And did you go to school for psychology, or you just decided, hey, I'm going to dive into these books because I want to understand people?
Dove into books.
Wow. What were some of the books that you remember in the earlier stages?
The big one is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
My wife has that one. I haven't read it yet.
You got to get on that book. Like, that's my go-to. I usually will reread that one once a year just to keep it fresh in my head.
What are some of those fundamental principles in there that you apply today?
What's the first one? Seek to understand before you're understood.
Okay.
Like, that's really the big one for me. It was, always, because sometimes as trainers, we try to make that member understand our point of view, when in reality, they're not here for us. We're here for them. So we need to understand their perspective and their point of view, what's going on in their life, and create a program that fits that, and not try to create a program for them to fit into what we want. That was a big one for me, because that was the mistake I was doing when I first started out as a trainer. Was I tried to fit everybody into this one program that I wanted them to fit into, and it didn't work, because it wasn't about them. It was about me.
Going and meeting their expectations, not having them meet your expectations.
Exactly. And there's the little ones, like, people's first names and remembering people's names. Like, it's these little things that, we don't think about, but man, when they're done right and they're done consistent, they go a long way.
Yeah. It's establishing relationships. I mean, I think that's something that we're kind of, unfortunately losing with social media, is that personal relationship and getting to know somebody. Even, I remember the days where you had to memorize people's phone numbers. You couldn't just have them built into your smartphone. I don't even think my son would even know my phone number right now. If there was an emergency and someone goes, hey, what's your dad's phone number? He probably wouldn't know. You'd go, I don't know. His name's Cameron.
I still have our time with phone numbers. Cell phones.
Dude, I used to pride myself in memorizing people's phone numbers, man. It was crazy.
Man, the world's changed. Once cell phones and social media. Yeah, social media definitely, it can go both ways. It can make us less engaging, or it can make us more engaging. For me, I find myself more engaged on social media because I'm engaging with the people. I've created this tribe, and in this tribe, that is my community, and so I'm engaging with them daily. And so I think, I think we're in a age of instant gratification where, we post something and within 20 seconds expect a like. And when we don't get a like, it bursts our ego. And that's kind of the age that we're in. But on the flip side of that, I think social media has allowed me to I have a private group for anyone who attends NorCal, and there's about 220 people in that group. And that group would have never been formed if it wasn't for the summit, and then being able to take that group, and now that becomes that's my tribe, like my community. And so I think social media, it can be looked at two different ways. I think it's just depending on what you're using it for, and I think it's brought people together in certain terms, and it's pulled people apart in certain terms. Yeah.
And it's important too that you're bringing people together, not just on the platform on social media, but with the NorCal Fitness Summit, with bringing people together and sharing knowledge for I can't think of a word right now, but just sharing that information amongst each other with like-minded individuals. Can you tell me a little bit about the NorCal Fitness Summit? How did it get started? Where is it today? And you recently moved over to Arizona, right?
I did. So I took a job with Lifetime Fitness over in Arizona as a membership onboarding manager. So basically my job now is, the simple terms, is member experience. So when a member joins, they sit down in front of me and I do a full on assessment of what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish, what are their limitations, what are their struggles, and get them involved with some of the different programs that we have at Lifetime.
Wow. I mean,
yeah, man, it's fun.
You've got so much on your plate, Khaled. It's insane.
The plates keep moving though, my friend. Somehow they keep moving.
And then I think I saw you want to do, is it that you want to do some type of summit in a lot of different parts? I mean, because you said earlier that I think Perform Better had like a one-day summit. There's certain companies that just have these conventions every so often, but you want to start to spread them all over the country, right?
It's a thought. It's a plan. It's okay. I'm definitely looking at doing one in Arizona, probably in probably like late spring, early spring next year, and then potentially doing one on the East Coast. Just because you got to think, events, though they're fun and they're awesome the weekend of, it's a struggle for a lot of people. It takes time and it takes energy and it takes money to shut down the business for a couple days, fly across the country to attend any event, whether it's NorCal or IDEA or Perform Better. And so, for me, it's simple enough to where now, I think this will be our seventh event, and we've been doing it for 4 years now. The brand's been established where now I can take that brand and move it to the East Coast and now do like an East Coast, West Coast event so that I can help impact more people's lives.
I mean, that'd be awesome. I find it difficult for me to go to a lot of these ones because I'm like, okay, that means I have to take so many days off of work because of travel, and then I've got to stay here. But if there's somewhere, more local, then it's like, oh yeah, of course, that's a no-brainer.
It's tough, man. And I think about that now as we start planning these events, down the road. Yeah, you take that into consideration. It's tough, especially now you're married, you have 2 kids, you have a business. Like that's time away from family, from work, from the wife, from the kids. And so all that weighs into your decision. And there's times where it's like, sometimes that's needed. Like you almost kind of need to get away from all of it for a weekend and surround yourself with the same type of people. Because I promise you in that room, there's a handful of others who are away from their wife, their kids, and their business, but they needed to be there because there was something they were looking for. And that's what that event allows to be created. Like it allows you to walk away with whatever it is that you were looking for, to go back and implement into your business so you can spend more time with your wife and your 2 kids and not have to work 12, 15-hour days.
Yeah. So Khaled, what was it like for you to start the NorCal Fitness Summit? What was the feeling after the first one had finished?
Oh, it was, man, it was scary as hell to start it because there's no blueprint to how to start an event. Basically, I was at a mastermind retreat and I came home and I think it was March of 2013. And I just put on Facebook like, hey, I'm thinking about doing an event like NorCal Fitness Summit. Not sure, who wants to be there, but we're looking for speakers. And honestly, man, it was a blessing because even the first one, we had the Nick Tominellos of the world and the Scott Rockliffs, and like we had some amazing speakers, Pat Rigsby's, and it was just, wow. It was the first one set the tone for the last 4 years, and I was fortunate enough because of relationships that were built. The one thing you can never find anywhere else without attending an event is the relationships you build at events. And it was because of those relationships at events with speakers and presenters and sponsors who became really close friends that NorCal has been able to grow. I mean, we had 30 people at our first one, and last year we had 190. Wow. So yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for those individuals, and if it wasn't for the attendees who trusted in me and invested in the event and knew that this thing would help change their lives, like NorCal would never grow to what it's grown. Like I look at myself, I'm just a curator, man. I just bring people together and I bring really good speakers together and we create a community. But if it wasn't for the results that community delivers, NorCal would never grow. And I mean, we had people, this year, a former attendee just launched her own business. Another one just wrote her first book. Like,
Whoa.
It blows me away to hear. And it's in that community, they share that. Like, I just created my first book. I just launched my first business. I just went online. Like, if all those happened because of the summit.
And you do these a couple times a year, right? Like, I know there's a few of them that they will do it just like annually.
I do. Well, we were doing it twice a year, and now it's just once a year.
Okay, gotcha.
It's tough when you don't have a team, right? Because I mean, the event's all ran by me. Like, now at this point this year, we actually have a team. Like, I have a virtual assistant who's helping. We have someone who's doing sponsorships, but for the last 3 years, it's all been done by me. So it was just better. It made more business sense to just do it once a year in October and let it be pretty much the last really fitness event where someone can get CEUs before the year's out.
So I notice with some of the events that I attend that the information kind of gets repeated over and over again. And let's say, every 5 years or so, I might go back to another summit because I want to see, what's the new research, what's the new kind of training methodology. How do you keep the information at the NorCal Fitness Summit relevant to trainers today?
So one is it's always a different set of speakers. Very rarely do I bring the same speaker back multiple times. The only really exception, Scott Rockcliffe is my social media guy. So we bring Scott back every year to talk about social media, but because I know Scott is keeping up with what's happening with social media. So I know the content he's going to be sharing, like this year, it's all about videos. And I know Scott's been doing his homework on making sure, keeping up to date what's happening with video. So at NorCal, he's speaking about how do you start using video now to grow your business or to get leads. So a lot of it is really like I'm the one going out and talking to the speakers and figuring out kind of like what are their needs, like what's the needs of the attendees kind of all year, listening to what they're like. We need more help with online training. I need more help with social media. I need more help with attracting sales or attracting clients. So I go now find the speakers that I know really do a really good job of teaching on that, and we invite them over. We invite them to come to NorCal. So a lot of my speakers are not even fitness industry speakers. I go into another industry. So 4 of my speakers,
love that.
4 or 5 this year are from the internet marketing, digital course creation industry. Because let's face it, that also translates into the fitness industry. So, man, my speakers are just not fitness speakers. They're fitness and business speakers from across multiple industries, which is what has kept me different than some of the other events.
I love that, man. That's incredible. Going into different industries and working together to just help the betterment of everyone is what it should be all about. I mean, that's sharing information freely is just incredible like that. Are you noticing is the social media side, is the online training side what you're finding there to be more of a demand of today?
Those are the hot topics right now. Like online, a lot of people want to go online. A lot of people want to start understanding social media better. How do I run a Facebook ad that generates leads? But it's one thing to understand it, but it's actually one thing to implement it and do it. And so that's where, for me, I hired a coach to help me with social media because I didn't understand it and I didn't want to waste time doing it when I didn't know what I was doing. And so, those are the hot things right now. Online coaching everyone's talking about online coaching because everybody wants to, but it really depends on what they're talking about it for. Is it because they feel like it's easier than, live one-on-one training in the club, which is not necessarily true. It's actually somewhat harder doing online training because there's just so many more moving parts involved than somebody walking through your door and signing up for training.
Yeah, I mean, not being in front of somebody is just a challenge in itself, not being able to have that personal connection with them and to go a little bit deeper in the conversation with them, I think is a big challenge. But with online training, is there a difference in the client base that trainers are dealing with? Are they going for more volume?
I don't think there's a difference in the client base per se, because your niche is your niche, and you're going to be able to train whether online or offline, you're still going to attract that niche market that you want to work with. I think online training just allows for more volume, but that's not necessarily the right thing. Like, why do you want, like, quantity over quality? I'd rather have 10 people paying me, $1,000 for training per month versus 20 paying me 200, and they get, crappy programming. And so I don't think it's a quantity thing. I think a lot of people want to go online because they feel like it's going to open up more time for them to do other things. We all want that freedom lifestyle, and online training allows you to create that lifestyle if it's done correctly.
What's a success story from someone who's attended the summit that maybe jumped into online training that kind of stands out, or do you have one right now?
We have one. She's about to launch. So she attended last year, hired an online coach, built out her online nutrition program. So she's launching it early next year, and basically it's for entrepreneur executive women who are looking for more time, who want to create more time or just don't have time to eat properly and diet properly and eat the right nutrition. So she created a program to help the busy entrepreneur mom with her food intake and with her food prep. And so that's her online program that she's launching in 2018.
Wow, that's awesome.
It is. It's awesome to hear these stories and see the end result of an idea that they might have had from attending the summit.
So what's the means to an end here, Khaled? I mean, you've got NorCal Fitness Summit. Do you enjoy being in the big box gym atmosphere? I mean, it seems like you can't get away from it right now.
I do love it, man. It's fun. Like, I think my role now is the right role for me, where I'm in front of members, I'm interacting with members, and I'm helping them get started on their fitness journey. And that for me speaks to me, like that speaks to my kind of like my gift of connecting with people. And so that's always going to be a part of that. And where that goes, I have no idea. Like, Lifetime is such a new company to me that I'm just kind of still figuring it out with Lifetime. With NorCal, it's going to continue to grow. It'll never be a mega event like an idea where there's 13,000 people. Like, that's not my goal with NorCal. A lot of it is I want it to be a more small, intimate event, but we're going to change next year. The model is going to change next year from just you come in, you sit down, you hear somebody speak for an hour, you take a break, and then the next presenter goes on. We're actually going to change the format next year to a completely different format.
Could you dive into that a little bit, or is that on the down low?
It's on the down low for right now.
All right. I'll respect that. We can keep it on.
So I'll do this. It's going to be more focused on implementation versus just more information. Okay,
so maybe a little bit more practical.
Yep. A little bit more practical, a little bit more like of implementing, more of instead of someone speaking for an hour, we're going to do more of like, and I'll go into it. We're going to do more of like a masterclass style talk. So a speaker will teach for a couple hours, and in those couple hours, the attendees will be mapping out their strategy and implement. And so by the time you leave on Monday, you have your entire blueprint like implemented, mapped out, fitted for your business, and now all you have to do is go back and just plug it in and go to work.
When you launch it next year, the first day you let people know that, hey, NorCal Fitness Summit 2018 comes out, okay, I'm signing up right now.
Dude, dates are October 5th, 6th, and 7th of next year.
Done. Send me a link.
I will.
Send me a link, and I'm going to sign up right now.
Sounds good.
Khaled, just before we end, I want to ask you a couple questions before we finish up here.
Of course.
Do you have any habits or daily rituals that you do just to kind of keep your mind in the game?
Yeah, meditation. Like, it's funny. I started doing it. It's not funny, but I started doing it. It is funny when you think about it, because you think meditation and you feel like you hear and all the chants, but dude, I downloaded this app a year ago called Headspace.
Dude, I have it.
And it's been a game changer for me. It's the first thing I do in the morning. After I get out of the shower, you turn on Headspace and I meditate for about 10, 15 minutes, and I read. Like, that's kind of like my morning ritual, is meditation and reading and journaling. Those three things have really kind of helped me the last year and a half really set the tone for where I want to take things. Like, just the ideas that come to mind after a 15-minute meditation session into a journal session is huge.
Absolutely. Are you trying to stay consistent with your meditation on a daily basis? Like, how many days have you done it consistently?
So far, you miss days. Like, I miss days. There's days where, like, I have a call I got to get on, or I got to be somewhere. So there's days I miss, but I try to do it at least 4 to 5 times a week. I try to make it a habit first thing in the morning. And if I miss a day, I don't beat myself up. Like, it's like, if I got 4 days in over the course of a week, I celebrate that. Like, that's a win for me. So, we try to get it in 4 or 5 days, but if I miss it, I miss it. But I'm consistent. Like, that's kind of the goal, is just make sure you keep getting them in and not completely give up on it.
So then how do you overcome speed bumps? Because you say you do them 4 to 5 days a week, right? For me, I try to do it like, when I was doing it, I try to do it every day. It's like all or nothing. I'm going to do this every single day. I hit a speed bump, I get derailed, I haven't meditated in months. How do you overcome those speed bumps that come in your way?
I think for me, it's understanding that, there's going to be bad days, and I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for progress. And so as long as I'm making progress every day and every week, I'm okay with missing a day or hitting a little bump, because I know, like, it's the small wins for me. Like, that's more important than I went in a week straight. If I got in 4 days out of 7, that's a win for me. Like, I'm okay missing those other days because I made sure at least I got 4. And so that becomes more of like, the self-awareness and the self-talk, like, what's happening? What am I saying to myself? I'm really conscious of what's happening in my head. And so, and I've made it okay for me to miss a day, and that self-talk doesn't happen because I still get my workout in and I still get my journaling in. So it's not a total loss of a day. Yeah.
I mean, at least you're, I like what you said, at least there's progress, not perfection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think even for myself, I try to strive for that perfection, but then if I don't hit it, I just stop.
I think we all do. I mean, I think when you're looking at success and you're trying to measure success, I think we all measure it by, I need to be perfect at everything. And let's face it, like, you're never going to be perfect at everything. And it's okay. Like, and I think that's as you're talking to clients and trainers, like, hey, it's okay you missed the sale, or it's okay someone didn't show up. Like, look at the wins look at the small wins. And I think as long as we keep that at the forefront, I think that sets you up for long-term success.
Yeah, definitely. So let's say you have a trainer. He comes up to you. He's kind of down on his training game. His business isn't going too well. He comes up to you at the NorCal Fitness Summit. He's like, you know what? I'm thinking about leaving the industry. What do you say to him?
Oh, man, that's a tough question.
It's pretty loaded, but
it is a loaded question. It's a good question, though. I think for me, the first thing I really want to understand is what's happening. Like, why is he feeling that way? What's he saying to himself? I mean, I kind of want to understand the circumstance that they're in. I think that just helps me paint a better picture of why those feelings are happening. And then we dive into, like, his bit, like, walk me through your business strategy, like, talk me through your business. Like, what are you doing for sales? What are you doing for marketing? A lot of the time it's a systems issue, and there's not a system in place, or there's maybe a hiccup in a system. And they've gotten down on themselves because now their self-confidence isn't the greatest because they've failed, or they haven't hit their success markers, or where they thought they needed to be or wanted to be, they're not there. Well, it's my job as their coach to really sit down with them and figure out, okay, let's reverse engineer back to, okay, what are the goals, and what are you doing to hit those goals, and what are the systems in place to help you get there? And if there isn't one, now I can start going to work and start coaching on, okay, what's your sales process? What's your lead generation process? What's your marketing process? And we start in that direction.
Yeah. And then you lay out that blueprint for him. And now he's like, okay, this isn't as intimidating as I thought.
They just it's frustration, and it's just not understanding, not having the proper systems in place. Sometimes or other times it's a bigger issue. Like, there's other factors, like what's happening at home and the impact it's having at home, and the pressure they're feeling from a spouse or a partner to start making some money. And so you have to understand the complete situation. Sometimes it's not even business related. Sometimes it's the home. that's causing some of that stress that's, bleeding into the business. So for me, I need to understand the complete person sitting in front of me, and I need to understand all their circumstances to best determine where I can come in and help support.
I love it, man. That's a great answer.
Thank you.
Khaled, you're doing so much right now. Do you ever take a break, and what do you do when you want to kind of decompress?
I do, man. I do. I usually will go for about 3 months. Like I usually do this 90-day sprint. And at the end of the 90-day, I usually will take a couple days where I fly back to San Luis Obispo. I'll head down to see my folks and just kind of slow life, slow down a little bit. St. Louis has always been my kind of place where I can go decompress and relax, hang out by the water and just kind of re-energize. So I usually have it planned where that's kind of my reward at the end of 90 days of sprinting and working hard, is I'll go for a couple days somewhere, whether it's my folks or San Diego or, just go somewhere and just disconnect for a couple days.
I love that. That's good because, you see everybody out today. It's go, go, go nonstop. And then you get burnt out and you crash and then you're down for, could be a couple months.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's knowing yourself. I know for me, once I hit that 3, once I start dipping in past 90 days, I just get tired. My brain's tired. I'm not as creative. My body's tired. And so for NorCal's coming out. So we've been sprinting the last 90 days, really making sure this event is top of the line. And at the end of NorCal, I'm going to take a couple days off and just decompress and just disconnect for a couple days and then come back at it, just re-energized and rejuvenated. But I can't, I made the mistake last couple years ago of going from a 3-day event right back into work. And my brain was just fried. Being on for 3 days at an event takes a lot out of you. And now I know better. So I take time off.
I think I'm going to start implementing that 3-month rule for myself.
Do it. It's fun. It keeps you sane.
Definitely. I know we talked about how to win friends and influence people, but what I want to ask is, what is one book that you would recommend? Who is a speaker or somebody out there that's just killing it in the industry that you suggest that people should kind of focus their attention on? And what is some other routine that you say that you think somebody should implement into their lives to, just keep them moving forward, keep them focused?
The book, I think right now, it's called Extreme Ownership.
Yes.
Dude, if you're in,
I've read it.
It's such an amazing book.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's it really opened my eyes to understanding kind of you own every aspect of your life. And so having that extreme, when it comes to your health, if you're not losing weight, you own that. That's on you. So it's no one else's fault. It's on you to own and do something about. If you're having a struggle in your business, it's not your marketer's fault. You own that as the business owner to figure out why you're having why those challenges are happening. And so, for me, that book was eye-opening on it's really seriously one of the best leadership books I've read. And I've read a lot of leadership books, but it's one of the best ones I've read to date.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaker wise, it's tough, man, because I think it all depends on what it is that you what are you looking for in your business? For me, it's easy to spit out names of different speakers, but I think it's really going back to for social media, Scott Rockcliffe comes to mind. He's one of the top when it comes to helping fit pros establish their social media presence. So if you're looking for social media help, go to Scott Rockcliffe. For coaching and how to be the best at what you do as a coach, dude, Martin Rooney comes to mind. Martin Rooney, I've seen that guy speak so many times and I always get fired up after one of his talks. And so if you're looking at how do I become a better coach and a better motivator, go see Martin Rooney. And so, for assessing and assessing member clients, Great Cook. Those are the 3 that tops come to mind when you're looking at what modality do I feel I need help with in my business. Those are the top speakers that come to mind for me.
And then one thing that someone could do just to keep them gritty, keep them on the grind, or keep them just centered and focused.
I know, right? I got a lot in my head. Honestly, man, reach out, within your circle, for me, like I usually will try once a week to connect to a friend in my circle who's doing some amazing work. So it's an accountability call. Like, hey, like here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm doing. What are you working on? Almost like an accountability buddy or accountability partner. But it's not so much to hold each other accountable, but it's always like, hey, like here's what I'm working on. Here's what I'm thinking about. Here's what I'm planning. Like, what do you think? Like, so within your circle, like having those phone calls where your friends will call you out on your stuff if it's not like, wait, that doesn't fit the mission of what you're trying to do. And so for me it's Scott. Like Scott's one of my best friends, and so when him and I start talking and I throw out an idea, like he always pushes back, like, does that fit the mission and the purpose of NorCal? If it doesn't, why am I doing it? So it's always having a friend who you trust, who will keep it real with you and will call you out on your stuff. Like, I feel like if you do one of those calls once a week or once a month, I think it keeps you centered of making sure you don't get caught in the squirrel syndrome of all this other stuff going on.
And how do you find someone like that? Do you just go through your contacts and like, okay, who fits the profile for you? It's been, I think it's years of developing those relationships. Okay. My circle of friends has changed over the last few years, where I've lost friends, and there's friends I don't talk to as much anymore, or maybe it's once a month. But then there's that group of friends where we talk every day, or every other day, or once a week, or once every couple of weeks. And I think you find that, but through the relationships you develop over, that relationship with Scott is something I've developed over the last 6-7 years. It's something that doesn't happen overnight. It's nurtured. But I think that's where that's where the trust is established, where he can tell me and call me out on my stuff because he's earned the right to do that, because we've nurtured the relationship for the last 7 years. I would never recommend doing that to somebody you just know, you've known for months. If look into your friends, some of your best friends. For some people, it's a wife or it's a partner. It's a confidant that knows you very well and knows the mission that you're trying to, and believes in the mission, and can see that there might be something going on that doesn't fit that mission, and is not afraid to call you out on it. Cool. That's awesome. And we can drop the mic right there. Where can people find you? How can we all get in contact with you, man?
So Facebook, if you just look up Khaled ELmasri, friend request me, shoot me a message. Instagram, it's KFit21. Friend me, and then if you're in the area, come up to San Francisco next week, and you can see me live at the NorCal Summit.
There we go. Absolutely. You got to send me that link too. I'm coming 2018.
All right, man. I'll send you that link right now.
Fantastic, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. Do you have any closing thoughts here?
No, man. Thank you, man. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. I love this. I think you're doing a great job with this podcast. I think you're going to change a lot of lives with this podcast. So keep up the great work. That's the goal, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, my pleasure. All right, Khaled. Take care, man. Have a great rest of your day. All right, Cameron. That's it for this week's episode of The Principles of Fitness, everyone. I want to give Khaled a special thanks for being with us on the show today. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, leave a comment on iTunes. And here's a sneak peek of next week's episode with nutrition coach Casey Arnold. Because, I have clients all the time who are like, I don't know what's going on. I'm eating chicken and broccoli every day and nothing's happening. And I'm like, that just can't be true. Do you get that ever? 100%. How would you educate people on what's going on? So clients, they'll come or say, I eat super healthy. Okay. So let me see your food. Okay. I'm eating chicken and broccoli, and then I'm having a protein shake for breakfast, protein shake for dinner, but nothing's changing. Okay. So we go past the food. Okay. Tell me about your work life and your home life. So it's more than food at that point. Oh, it's so much more than food at that point. Okay. So the food is just the food is literally the top of the cake, right? So the food's icing on the cake, but what's the ingredients in the cake that's actually making that cake? And that has to do with the behavior, the mindset, and their environment that they're living in. Mm-hmm. So you could be the healthiest eater in the world. You could have the healthiest diet, but if you're not in a positive environment, and if your mental and health state, AKA your stress levels, and that's not just external, that's internal stress, are not functioning optimally, it doesn't matter how healthy you're eating, your body is not going to absorb those nutrients if you're not functioning and living in an optimal state.
To hear more from some of the best that the industry has to offer, please hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for the next episode of The Principles of Fitness.